The offseason is here, which means free agent frenzy is starting on up. Should Jayce Tingler be added to the Giants coaching staff, and some roster updates with Tom Murphy no longer being with the San Francisco Giants. That's all coming up on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. My name is Alan Stiles. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now. I also host a show at Sacktown Sports 1140, as well as emceeing Sacramento Rivercats games. All in all, I'm lucky enough to cover a team I've been a fan of all my life. We have some names to bring up. Free agent frenzy is here. Jayce Tingler, should he be added to Tony Vitello's coaching staff? And Tom Murphy, a backup catcher for the Giants, no longer with them as the Giants don't pick up his option. What does that mean for the backup catcher position? Got some roster updates for you there. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Okay, you know I've been looking forward to this. Look, when your team is out and they're no longer playing, all you can do is wait around for the season to end to talk about free agents. I really wanted to wait on it because there's no point talking about something until moves can be made, and it is officially, that parade is over. Okay, we don't got to talk about it anymore. People were mad that I talked about the Dodgers for, I don't know, more than 2 minutes yesterday, saying that they did win the World Series and they did take care of business. Still can't stand the Smurfs. And if you've been watching the show, listening to the show, you know how I feel about that team from Southern California. But I get it. Everybody's up in their feelings. It is what it is. Let's just keep it between the lines. All right. Keep it between the lines. All right. Who else will be playing for the Giants between the lines? That is ultimately the question. And how I want to do this is I want to break things out into sections, right? There's so many free agents. There's no way we're going to be able to attack every free agent in one segment, two segment, maybe not even the show. So what I'm going to do is kind of segment them out throughout different shows as we make our way through this off season. So today I have sectioned them off into some of the names that popped up yesterday for players that opted out of their contract. So today's focus is on players that have opted out. Obviously, they're free agents, just like free agents that didn't have to opt out, but just to kind of segment them and not overwhelm everyone with all the names. Today, we're going to focus on the players that just recently opted out. So here is the list that I have for you today. And let's just say that it's a good one, depending on what you're into. So Alex Bregman is a name that opted out. Cody Bellinger is a name that opted out. Edwin Diaz is a name that opted out. Robert Suarez is a name that opted out. And Ha-Seong Kim is a name that opted out, as well as Pete Alonso. Now, I'm old enough to remember when Pete Alonso was supposed to be a Giant. And I'm not talking about the Arson Judge thing. It didn't get that far, but there were a lot of people that wanted the Giants to go out and spend big money on a Pete Alonso when he was dealing with his contract stuff in the recent past. So we're here again, and Pete Alonso's name has popped up. And right off the top, we're going to eliminate Pete Alonso simply because the Giants have far too many first basemen. You know, you've brought up Bryce Eldridge. Obviously, you have Rafi Devers now. If Rafi Devers stays at first base, which is a conversation that we could have, but for now, I don't see Pete Alonso being a part of the conversation for the Giants. I think that ship has sailed, and it would have been fun. I think that he does have the type of power that the Giants stadium and the Giants ballpark, it wouldn't be an issue, but I think it just didn't happen. And hey, Rafi Devers is a good consolation prize, and hopefully Bryce Eldridge makes us never think about Pete Alonso again. That is hopefully where this thing is going to go. The next name, Alex Bregman. I like Alex Bregman. I've liked him for a while. I mean, I know the trash can thing with the Astros. A lot of people just don't like any Astros, but all those guys could play, man. I mean, that's just the reality of it. We can separate what they did and how messed up it was and cheating the game. Obviously, I don't like that. But as a ball player, Alex Bregman has always been just that, a gamer, a baller. You know what's funny is I don't know, but it kind of feels like we have to cross it out simply because of Rafael Devers. I mean, what a weird situation for the Red Sox to essentially botch whatever went down with Rafi Devers, and Boston media gave Rafi Devers such a tough time to botch that situation, and knowing, right, who you had under contract, knowing that Alex Bregman could possibly be opting out, and now you have neither of them. Just a bit bizarre, if you ask me. Maybe they just felt as if they didn't want to pay Rafi Devers, and they didn't really care. It wasn't really about Alex Bregman. They didn't like how all that went down. Not digging up that situation, but maybe that's the case. But the Red Sox went from having two third basemen to having none as far as those vets are concerned. But with that being said, I just don't think that you can bring Alex Bregman onto this team. I think he would be willing to play second base on a team. He's getting a little bit older now, but I don't see the Giants being a home for Alex Bregman. He's probably going to end up on a contender, but I don't think it's going to be in San Francisco. Next on the list, this is an intriguing one, and I know people are going to be very caught up on this name just based on who he is, who he's played for. And the guy only plays for big markets and big brands. Some teams just get all the luck, or some players just get all the luck. Cody Bellinger. So Cody Bellinger has only played for the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Yankees. He just does not do small market teams. And I don't know if at this point he'd be willing to do a small market team. It's also just, it's not by design, right? It's kind of how it's worked out for him. Cody Bellinger is really interesting. They started putting him in center, right, a couple years back. This season, he didn't have to play center. He played left with the Yankees. He had a pretty darn good season. I mean, he's playing in a completely different ballpark, but he is a huge lefty. If you would look at him as an upgrade for an Elliot Ramos, or you put him back in right field, it's definitely something to think about. As far as what he's going to expect to be paid, that's a different conversation. So he had a 5 WAR. Okay, he had 588 at-bats, 160 hits, 29 home runs. He hit 272 as far as his batting average is concerned, for those who still care. OPS of 813, had 13 stolen bases, which, crazy enough, that might lead the Giants off the top of my head. 98 RBIs, 89 runs. Yeah, I just don't know if the Giants would be willing to pay that, but I definitely believe that he could help, right? He definitely could help. I'm looking here at this projection, right, for Cody Bellinger, and there are a couple landing spots out there. He turned down, his player option was $25 million, okay? $25 million. So you got to think, when that happens, okay, they're going to expect they can make something like that. So his contract projection is similar to that. It would just be more years. So 3 to 6 years at $25 to $30 million a year. And this is from justbaseball.com. Cody Bellinger is going to receive a sizable contract from someone this offseason. Teams aren't necessarily viewing Bellinger as a 47 home run MVP hitter that he was in 2019 with the Dodgers, but as a strong defensive outfielder that can hit for both power and contact in what is still the prime of his career. Someone will be out there. Yeah, this is a really tough one. I do think that the Giants should give it a look, though. And could that be, if you're not in the business of the Kyle Tucker thing, right, could you convince Cody Bellinger to take 3 years? 3 years, $25 million, maybe you up the AAV. Does that feel too rich for some fans' blood? Probably, but he's I mean, from a production standpoint, even with playing in the bandbox in New York, I mean, it would be definitely an upgrade. And the thing about right field to me, I mean, he's just a better outfielder than Elliot Ramos. Hitting wise, though, I don't know that Elliot Ramos wouldn't have 29 home runs if he didn't play in New York every day, right? So hitting wise, I don't know how much better Cody Bellinger is than Elliot Ramos. Elliot Ramos is obviously cheaper, but Cody Bellinger is clearly a better outfielder. So that's another name on the list. The last name that we have for you, I'm actually going to save for the other side. There's two more names, so don't move. More Locked On Giants. I'll finish this up, and then we'll get into Jayce Tingler. Locked On Giants. We'll be right back. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at their best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. And I love zone deals. You pick the section, and Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. We are back, and look, I told y'all that I was really excited to talk about these contracts, right? And this free agent frenzy, so much so that I couldn't even fit it in all in one segment. Just for reference, Matt Chapman, who we talk about a decent bit on this show because I do think it's a bit of a polarizing contract. Just to let you know, compared to Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman is in the second year of his 6-year deal, and Matt Chapman will be making $25.1 million a year until 2030 when he is 37. So to use that as a reference, and Cody Bellinger, who will be 30 in 2026, to use that as a reference, it feels like Cody Bellinger is going to be too expensive for the Giants, just based on who they've already spent money on. I think they do have one more bigger contract that they will use for that right field position. I just don't know if you want to spend that money on Cody Bellinger. I'm not against it at all. I'm just trying to figure out what the Giants want to do. And it feels like they got one more token, right? When you're at Scandia or wherever it is, you got one more token and you want to use that token on your favorite game and you really don't want to have any regrets. For me, it would be like a cheat meal, right? You get one more cheat meal, you get one cheat meal a week, and you really want to make sure that you use it on something you really like. And I don't know if they will like Cody Bellinger that much. Wouldn't surprise me, as he is a big lefty, and he could pepper that wall in Oracle. Don't get me wrong, but it might be a little bit much. Or who knows? Maybe he takes a shorter contract. Just depends on what's out there. People and outlets like Just Baseball seem to think that he's going to get cashed out. And he had a great season. 270, over 272, 27 bombos, 13 bags. He's just, when these guys aren't what they once were, we look at them differently. But that's still probably, outside of Rafi Devers, I don't know, man. That's probably the best performing Giants hitter right there. So maybe they do think that Cody Bellinger can be that guy for them. The other names I wanted to get to before we get to Jayce Tingler is Ha-Seong Kim, who didn't really play very much for the Braves, and people were a bit surprised that he even opted out. I think he opted out at $16 million. And the fact that he opted out kind of let it be known that it's probably a thin shortstop class. Obviously, the Giants aren't in the in the business for looking for a shortstop. I don't know that he is to the point where he wants to look at second base. And if he's opting out of $16 million, that's probably going to be pretty expensive for whoever decides to bring him on. He really just wasn't able to play very much last season. So that's not something I'm really willing to take a chance on. Last but not least, we have Edwin Diaz and Robert Suarez. So Robert Suarez, to me, look, the Giants and this connection to the Padres that just won't go away. But Robert Suarez, to me, a little bit longer in the tooth as far as his age is concerned. The Giants do have to make a decision with Randy Rodriguez. He's not going to be returning. Obviously, they moved on, or returning this next season because of injury. Obviously, they've moved on from Camilo Doval. The Giants do have to figure out if they want to continue this closer by committee thing, or if they want to just cash somebody out and say, cool, we have our closer. It's not something I feel like they've done very often because they have done a really good job of bringing guys up, but it might be that time. Maybe you find one of these older closers on a better deal. So that could be part of this as well. I would give it a look, but yeah, I kind of agree with the Giants. I'm not huge on overpaying for closers. They have so many other, I don't want to say issues, but priorities. I'm not sure where that would fall. Although it is a priority for them. It's definitely a priority for them because you got to close games, especially if you're not going to be hitting. I mean, yeah, now that I think about it, if you're going to prioritize defense and pitching, then you might look at the closer position differently and say, hey, we do actually need to cash that out. So we'll see what happens there. Wanted to discuss Jayce Tingler as an option for the Giants. So this is from Andrew Baggerly. This was back when everybody was figuring things out with Tony Vitello. Here's one early name to circle as a potential bench coach. Jayce Tingler, the former San Diego Padres manager, played with Vitello at Mizzou, and they've maintained a close relationship over the years. Tingler, who was bench coach to Rocco Baldelli with the Twins this past season, could be a candidate to replace him as the manager. If not, then Tingler's major league dugout experience. He was also the bench coach in Texas, in addition to managing the Padres from 2020 to 2021, would make him an appealing complement and trusted confidant to Vitello in San Francisco. Tingler is a fluent Spanish speaker as well. I think that's a kind of low-key big deal. Especially for somebody like Vitello, who maybe didn't have to deal with it in the same way at the college level. This is from Around the Foghorn. Tingler only had 2 seasons as a skipper of the Padres, and really less than 2 considering the first season was 2020, which was shortened to 60 games. He was fired after 2021 and had a record of 116 and 106 over those 2 seasons. And that's just a name that a lot of people are saying the Giants and Tony Vitello could have interest in. It remains to be seen how he wants to fill this out, but he's a guy that knows Tony Vitello well and could make things a bit easier as far as the transition is concerned. Ironically, going back to Tingler, he was replaced by Bob Melvin. So if the Giants did hire him as a bench coach, they'll be bringing in a guy the Padres thought was worse than Melvin, if you want to look at it that way. Like I said, he was with Rocco Baldelli, but Rocco no longer being with the Twins. Yeah, Tingler is now trying to figure out what will be next. So that's a name to keep in mind, as some things are going to get out pretty soon here. I've been talking to some people and discussing the timeline of it, and some might be bigger announcement than others, but we're going to start to see some names trickle in here. And of course, when we do, we will break it all down. When we return, let's talk about some of the roster and contract updates. And could this update mean a new opportunity for Jesús Rodríguez? Don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere. Prize Picks operates in all the states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. When I've been playing Prize Picks, I've been doing football Sundays and NBA tip-offs, which keeps everything exciting. I like picking my favorite players like Mahomes and Steph Curry to see how my predictions play out. The new Stacked feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's threes, points, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury boost saves my lineup from a loss. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. One more segment for you, and like I said, you can see it on my face how much I love talking about free agents. It's the hope that free agents bring. And with that being said, the Giants were hopeful that this guy would have worked out a little bit better, but injuries continued to get in the way, and they have said goodbye to backup catcher Tom Murphy. Some of you might be wondering who Tom Murphy is, and look, I'm not really going to bag you for it. He was brought on a couple years ago to be the backup catcher and just had some really unfortunate injury luck, and he just was unable to stay on the field. This is from MLB Trade Rumors. It's one of the least surprising option decisions of the year ahead of the 2024 season. The Giants signed Murphy to a 2-year, $8.2 million deal. He made $4 million salary last year and this year, then could have made the same in 2026 if the Giants picked up the option, but they said, thank you, Mr. Murphy. We've seen enough. Murphy only played in 13 games in 2024 and didn't play at all this year. Last year, he had a left knee sprain. This year was an oblique strain, and they thought it was an oblique strain. Turns out it was a herniated disc, and they treated the wrong disc. Just a complete mess, and you feel for people when they are unable to do what they love and just play the game. I mean, we're not talking about somebody who's sitting there trying to catch 80 games. He couldn't even get on the field enough to be the backup catcher. So that situation was kind of out of Murphy's hands. And the Giants decided, hey, we're going to move forward with Andrew Kisner and a name that you've heard before, Jesús Rodríguez. It's time to turn the page. And we've talked about Jesús Rodríguez before. I watched him in Sacramento. He had an injury, which kind of kept him from catching early on, then did catch later and caught pretty well. He's kind of a project down there for the River Cats. And I think it's really fascinating. I did a deep dive on Jesús Rodríguez yesterday. And as recent as AAA, when he was with the Yankees, he was playing third base and he was playing outfield, which is funny because when you look at his write-up on for the top 30, because obviously he's a top 30 prospect for the Giants, he's going to be with the big league club next season. This is his write-up or some of his write-up. Rodríguez has quality bat to ball skills and produces quality exit velocities, though they're mitigated by an extremely aggressive approach. A right-handed hitter, he chases all types of pitches out of the zone, resulting in a lot of suboptimal ground ball contact. He's capable of hitting the ball to the opposite field. 4 of his 10 homers last year went to right field, but he'll probably top out at 12 to 15 homers per season unless he gets more selective. So they think it's there, not a ton, but they think enough is there if he's more selective. Rodríguez would maximize his value if he can catch on a regular basis, and San Francisco believes he can. He struggles as a receiver at times and needs more reps behind the plate, though he does move okay and has solid arm strength and a quick release. First base may be his only other viable option because he lacks range in left field and struggles with the speed of the game at third base. Like I said, he was just playing outfield and third base not too long ago in the Yankees organization, but that's what the write-up says. And I was really excited looking at his MLB, reference. Then when I read this, I was a little less excited. Look, first season, let's just get you as the backup catcher. That's fine, right? We can discuss what else he can do once he starts to hit. If he starts to hit, is second base completely out of the question? I don't know. Not that I'm trying to kick Casey Schmidt out. I'm just looking for guys, and the conversation we had about positionless baseball, I'm just looking for guys that can play more than one position. And Jesús Rodríguez with decent pop, but as a catcher, I think does change things, but he's battling with Patrick Bailey, who's arguably the best catcher in the league. Now, he doesn't hit like it, but he's coming off another Gold Glove that is fresh. He just got that. So the Giants are really going to have to pick and choose here, because the other part of it is there's going to be no room at DH. Right? Jesús Rodríguez is not going to be able to get a lot of time at DH, you wouldn't think, with Bryce Eldridge and, of course, Rafi Devers. So I don't know how he's going to kind of slide in there. The other part of it is that he is a right-handed hitter, though, and those other two guys aren't. So that gives him a little bit of an advantage just as far as getting a look and what he could do there. So Jesús Rodríguez, to me, it's going to be a coming out party for him in 2026. Patrick Bailey, I think it's going to help. I think iron sharpens iron, and Patrick Bailey has not really had any other iron back there. No disrespect to the Kisners and other guys that have backed them up, but you get a young guy from the Yankees organization that everybody's talking about and can do something that is not your strong suit. I just think it's human nature that Patrick Bailey is going to understand that he needs to step up, right, and do things in a certain way offensively. And you saw it towards the end of the season. So I think it's going to be great stuff for the Giants. To Tom Murphy, thank you for your service. We really hope that he's able to get healthy and finish out his career, if it's not done, but finish out his career somewhere the way he would want it to end, with at least being able to get on the field. But yeah, this is a silent. The move is not a big deal, but the fact that this is going to give Jesús Rodríguez a real opportunity to just be up with the big ball club, along with Andrew Kisner. But I think that they're going to give Jesús Rodríguez some opportunities with some of the off days that Patrick Bailey might be taking. And let's not forget the ABS stuff and how many outs that Patrick Bailey steals. How many will he now be stealing? This is going to get very interesting. Very, very interesting. And it all comes down to Patrick Bailey's ability to hit versus Jesús Rodríguez's ability to catch and, to a lesser degree, be more selective hitting. But the dude gets knocks. The dude absolutely gets knocks. Thank you for listening to Locked On Giants. Be sure to listen every single day and continue to let people know about what we're doing. Be sure to follow me on social media at @_Styles Files, Styles with an I. We will talk to you tomorrow. Like, subscribe, all that jazz, and follow the official Locked On Giants account as well on X and on TikTok. Until tomorrow, we will talk to you then. Peace.